Welcome to the video of the December meeting of the Ottawa Woodworkers Association. We divided the meeting into two parts. This first video has member presentations, small projects of what they've been up to in the last little while. And the second part is a presentation from Clarence Creek Wood Select, the products and the services that they offer.
And they're simple. How many people have followed Tom McLaughlin?
A little bit.
Okay, he did classic woodworking. He's got epic woodworking, and he has a number of hints and techniques that he shows every Thursday night, and then he puts them on YouTube, and then you can follow him wherever you want. So I'd commend him because he really does give you a few neat hints. I think he's helped me in terms of freehand band sawing, in terms of how to look at the blade rather than the point, a few other hints. So he did one, and I was sitting there and I watched it. I watched this episode for 15 friggin' minutes. 15 minutes of my time. And I thought, oh my God, what did he do? So a gift for any woodworker is your hand sanding block, which he has calculated, because he comes from New England, to optimize a quarter sheet of sandpaper. You know, when you do the sandpaper, so that it actually fits in your hand. He's actually measured it, and he said, the optimal measurement this way is 4 1/4 inches. This way it's 1 7/8. That's the height, and then you mold it to your hand. Now what woodworker would not like to get this in their stocking? Right? Right? There you go. So
I'll give you my address later. How does it stick on? What's that?
this is, well, you can't just use wood, right? You have to have cork.
Ah.
So this is a very expensive cork liner. Very expensive, that you get from Lee Valley. So I had a piece like that. So that is the first gift for a woodworker.
So then you just glue the paper onto the cork?
The second gift is for people who drink scotch.
Well, we don't know anything.
Nobody here.
Why is everyone looking at me?
I was looking directly at you. Okay, so this is another present. This is, of course, your standard coaster. 4 inches and 1/8 square, right? How many people use coasters with a whiskey glass, a wine glass? After 4 shots, you need this.
Bigger one.
By increasing it 3/4 of an inch, you get 6 square inches more. And let me tell you, after 6 drinks or after 2 drinks, you can put your glass down and it's not going to tip over. Right? Now, the thing that why did I do these? I was practicing my band sawing for veneering and trying to get thin pieces. This looks like it's really simple, but it's a challenge because it's 3 pieces. It's hard to get this so it doesn't concave because it's so thin, and it's quite a challenge. And it's also a challenge to get that strip in there. You could do just an inlay, and that would be fine. But that, once again, is, I thought this was sort of, it's not project orientated, it's gift orientated. So that's another one.
That's really nice though.
That's great, yeah.
Now, I have a wife that likes a clean counter in the kitchen. And I made this for her, thinking that she would not want it. And she uses it all the time. Okay? The thing about this one, in terms of demonstration, was that it actually can take those big mother cookbooks, right, and not tip over. So it took a bit of time to kind of figure out the angle, what you do, how you do it. I thought what you would do is you'd say, "Oh, that's nice, Roger," and then put it in the goddamn, shelf and never see it. But it actually, she uses it every day. Well, not every day.
That's nicely put.
So it's just a simple thing. And how many of these can you knock out
Rogers,
for your?
get closer. Hey, that's a fantastic idea. I want a picture of it.
Well,
That's a great idea. Is that
Yeah.
your own design?
how can you do that? Like, it's so easy.
Yeah.
You can bang these out for all your friends, wives, and guys that cook. And it's really a sturdy type of,
It's designed for books, right?
yeah.
You
Yes.
could use it for,
Yeah.
Also the iPad.
Exactly.
with just
Yes.
That's what we use when we're Zooming. We put this on the iPad. The only problem is the lip here for the iPod.
Put a little shim on
Yeah. But Norm, you're right.
How many scotches did you have?
I don't know.
That's really nice.
Okay.
Brilliant idea.
These are all gifts, eh? Not much wood technique, but, okay. And this is really useful. You use this once a day, or once a year. Once a year. And you hide it somewhere else. But it's a charcuterie board.
Yeah.
And the reason why I made this was because we have 11 people Christmas morning. We also have them for dinner. And so what do? They have breakfast, that is that bacon, eggs, pancakes, sausages, all that crap. We decided, okay, we can't do this. It's just too much work. So we do charcuterie boards, and that's what we do. We do it once a year. Maybe if we have some friends over, we'll have a charcuterie with a soup. So that's twice. And then it goes and it's packed away. So that's the other project.
This is actually very smart.
Now, this is also something I'd like to discuss with you. This wood, it's Peruvian walnut.
Okay.
And it is gorgeous. It is very difficult to work with because it's really, really brittle. It splinters really badly. So you really have to, before you cut, you're really actually marking it so that it doesn't splinter. But I thought this was this is just scrappy, but, it's a gift. Now, in all deference to Norm and Gary, whose skill goes beyond compare, and anybody else that's taken a Rosewood course or anything, I didn't do it, I don't have that training, so I have to supplement my knowledge. And one of the things that I've done is I've taken this book, it's by Pekovic, and it's actually quite a good one. And so,
That's a brilliant book.
woodworkers might want to have that. And this is the project that came out of that. And you could use this as a gift. I made 3 of these, but I haven't found anybody that deserves to get this. So it's really a simple box with traditional Kamiko in it. And this lip is a really sneaky way of doing a lid that Pekovic does. And it just fits on, and it's just perfect.
Just cut right off.
The
Yeah.
box is
Just cut the
nice.
box
How
apart.
long did it take you to make the Kamiko?
It took me a day,
Really?
yeah, for 3.
Yeah,
You know, once you get involved,
yeah.
and this is not glued, it's all compression fit,
Oh, wow.
tensioned. There's a technique that, for this particular piece here, people tend to, or a lot of teachers do 3 individual pieces here. 1, 2, 3. There is another technique where this piece 1, 2 is actually 1 piece.
Yeah,
And it's much easier to do.
yeah, you just cut the groove just shy,
Yeah.
paper thin,
Yeah.
open it up, and there's.
That's right. That's right. Anyways, this would be an interesting box to give a nice watch in, or
Yeah.
something else, or chocolates, or.
Be a nice box to give.
Yeah.
So I can't compare to these projects, but I thought, you said that we were gonna do some Christmas projects, so those are some that you might wanna consider. Especially the big coasters for
You hear that, Charles?
Yep, yep.
Thank you.
So recording these meetings is a little bit hit or miss, and one of the things that I missed was my own presentation. So what I'll do is I'll just voice over my slides and show them to you. I made this wall cabinet not too long ago. The wood is strips of insect and fungus infected maple. Ginny likes it, and she says it fits right in with our bathroom, since the bathroom is Tuscan style. The tiles, for example, even brand new, they look like they're 300 years old. So Ginny says that the cabinet fits right in. And that's way better than what she said about a lamp I once made. Oh, that'll look really good in your wood shop. Now, if you've been with the club for a while, you know that I've gone down the 3D printing rabbit hole. In my defense, my prints are close to 100% practical. And easily, 9 prints out of every 10 are tools or accessories for the wood shop. The cabinet has 4 examples of 3D printed hardware. 2 you can see right on the front. So the poles are shaker-inspired pegs, but wider for a more natural grip. So they're not the skinny pegs, but they're chubbier. I've used pulls just like this on several shop drawers, and they last. They're keepers. The hinges are 3D prints as well, except for the hinge pin, which is sometimes a wooden dowel and sometimes a metal tube. They're undergoing a long-term test to see how well they hold up. If they last forever, great. If they last a long time, but long enough so that it's worth reprinting and replacing them, that's also great. But if they have to be replaced more than, let's say, every year, that's not great. So far, so good. And as far as their operation goes, they work really well. The third example is not easy to see, even with the doors open. It's the shelf pins, also 3D printed. You can design and print dozens in the time it would take to go to the hardware store. Now, the cabinet, as you can see, does not have a back. So that means that it's not possible to hide a French cleat. And also, since the cabinet has to be mounted centrally over the toilet, there's not much chance that I'll hit studs. So that brings me to the 4th 3D print. It's a bracket that mates with a round head screw in a wall anchor. And here's a picture of a number 8 round head screw in a wall anchor. The bracket is really the star of this presentation. Here's a look at the bracket itself. So we're up close looking at the back edge of one of the cabinet sides. So this would be the edge that goes right against the wall. The bracket is nested in housing. So the housing is 1/4 of an inch deep, 1/2 inch across, and 1 3/4 inches in length. And it was routed using a 1/2 inch straight bit. The bracket is original in the sense that I designed it, but not in the sense that I invented it. These sorts of brackets, keyhole slots, are readily available in metal in just about any hardware store. But I wanted to see whether such things in plastic would hold up. And the plastic I'm thinking about is PLA. So that's the cheap, common, novice-friendly material that 3D printers typically start off with. Here's a side note. The housing on the right was just right, but the housing on the left side was a little bit short. On my way to get the chisels, I stopped. So there's no need to lengthen the housing. I'll just print another keyhole bracket and I'll make it a 32nd of an inch shorter. Bingo, it's slotted right in. Here's another side note. It's not always achievable to get plumb when you're hanging something from 2 screws in drywall. I was lucky this time, but time and again, wall anchors end up at slightly different heights. But having a 3D printer, I can correct for that. I can specify slot length to the 1/10 of a millimeter, make a few different lengths, and then select brackets in order to achieve plumb. But like I said, I got lucky this time, and the 2 screws were right at the same level. Now, you have to choose the wall anchor carefully. A typical rowel plug style, they pull out too easily, even the fat ones. The butterfly or toggle designs, so an example in the middle, they have the holding power you need, but their heads are loose until you actually tighten them against something. And the upshot is that when you're fumbling around trying to hang the cabinet blindly, you're far more likely to push the screws into the wall than hook the cabinet on them. So they're no good. In the end, the auger style of anchor shown at the bottom was the best choice. So it had that combination of good holding power and also holding onto the screw firmly while you fumbled around trying to get the cabinet to hook onto the screws. So I slapped together a little jury-rigged shelf and tested it with these anchors. To be clear, though, these anchors are purchased. They're not 3D printed. Anyhow, on that shelf, I was able to pile 6 bricks for a total of 36 pounds. I didn't have a 7th brick, so I can't tell you how much more than 36 pounds these things can hold, but 36 pounds is a substantial weight. In the end, I pulled these things out manually. And in every case, when I did these tests, both with this style of anchor and also with the earlier rowel plugs, it was always the drywall that gave out. The anchors were fairly much intact, but more importantly, the brackets were perfectly fine. So the brackets showed no damage. I made a bunch of these brackets and passed them out at the meeting. I will bring more with me to future meetings, so come up and ask me for a pair if you'd like to try them out. Norman Parolo brought 4 vintage Plow Planes that he restored. While he didn't talk about them formally with a presentation, he did make them available for us to look at, to pick them up, to caress them, and just generally to admire his superb restorations.
It's historical. This is the very first wooden project I ever made. I was 11 years old, and I took a shop class in summer camp in Montreal and made this. And if I say so myself, mine was the nicest one in the whole class. Courtesy of this little solid walnut handle with a brass rod through the middle of it and everything else. And genuine linseed oil finish. This is what it looks like after
100 years.
yeah, after a number of years, several decades. Anyways, and I was just amazed. I came across it the other day, and I'm like, what the, geez, I still have this? So anyways, this, when I was 11, this was very intimidating. You know, I mean, I've got the instructor standing over me, you know, as I'm through the table saw and everything else, cutting the rabbets and the like. So it was like, you know. It was the reason I bring this up is because that state of nervousness has reoccurred now in my 6th decade because I got myself a CNC machine. Now, I've been doing this for a long time, and I have a lot of tools, and every time I've worked in shops and things like that, so that's why I know what a stroke sander is. I've used one. I'm familiar with all the machines and how they work and how to adjust them and how to use them and everything else. I spent 2 years on table saws, cutting all the components and everything else from lists and the like. So I've always known what to do with the machines I have in my shop as I get them. But the CNC, I'm clueless, haven't a beginning of a notion. And the first part of it is the programming of the machine in the first place. It's like, and I don't do computers, so it's like, So here, ta-da, is my very first. I programmed this myself. Okay, I programmed it myself and I made the machine do what I wanted it to do. And it turned out 170 of these, every one of them identical. Like down to, you take your digital caliper and you go, and there's no difference in the .0076. It's like the whole way, everything. It's absolutely amazing. This is fascinating stuff. But anyways, yeah, this is what I'm bragging about. Okay.
So those are for the bottom?
This is the bottom of the boxes I'm making for. This is my Christmas project, but it's unfortunately for everybody else.
Yeah, the samples.
Anyways, I just wanted to give an idea of this.
So did you do the sides as well, Charles?
Oh yeah, I've done the side. The boxes are all assembled. They've all been sanded and everything
But
else.
did you do the sides and the tops on this in the CNC as well?
No, I did the tops. The tops are essentially that piece saws holes.
Okay.
So it's exactly the same thing, same dimensions, same measurements and everything else, but the sides are made out of strips of 1/4-inch Baltic birch plywood.
Okay.
And trying to work with 1/4-inch Baltic birch plywood on a CNC machine is like trying to figure out how to hold it down and leaving tabs and how to eliminate the tabs afterwards, and it's like more work than it's worth.
It's just, you run it through the table saw.
Exactly, that's exactly what I did. So.
And so for those, you just had oversized blanks that the CNC then cut into, or?
What I did was I took, because I'm trying to rush, and a CNC is, it's a brilliant machine to use if it's doing work off to one side while you're doing something else, because you can double up. It's like having an extra hand in the shop. Unfortunately, I only have one electrical outlet in my shop, so I can only operate one machine at a time. So when it's operating, that's the machine. But so what I did was I was taking strips of wood 32 inches long and pre-cutting the edges here, but a 1/16 extra, and just cut slots here and here, once again a 1/16 in and everything else, and then I programmed the machine to go and cut it to the exact size. So it could just take in one pass what would normally, if I had programmed it to, would take 3 or 4 passes on each one, which would have taken forever. I'd still be waiting for the machine to finish, probably, at this point. So, yeah. Anyways, that's all stuff for, I don't know, I've got 2 presentations that, if anybody's interested, I'll do. One of them is how to make 160 boxes in a small shop. if that's of interest to anybody. Boxes, yeah, they can be used to do anything. And the other thing is, yeah, the joys and perils of getting into CNC. It's like how to make a small fortune. Everybody knows the answer to that one.
Yeah.
Start the big one.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, anyways, that was it.
Why would we make just a smaller hole, smaller recess on the top? Because if I recall, your bottles, the top is smaller than this, isn't it?
Sorry,
Okay, you put your samples of bottles in there, right? Yep. Okay, but at the top.
Hey all, my name's Ryan, newish member here. I just completed Rosewood Studio's 3-month craftsman program. This is one of the projects we did. It's a butternut cabinet that I chose to do. It's finished in a very light cut of shellac, like probably less than a pound. I did a bunch of coats of that. It's got a book matched front here. Little pole that I turned. Also a butternut. It's got a couple shelves, a shiplap back, and then dental molding out of here, out of basswood and torrefied poplar. And that's the back with a French cleat. And yeah, it was done with a mix of hand tools and power tools. Obviously, we used a router and table saw, and then hand planes for the most part. Yeah, so that's that project.
I like the way you did your French cleat, because normally a lot of French cleats proud, so it actually leaves a little gap in the wall.
For sure.
Whereas that, it's sit absolutely flush the wall.
That's the hope, we'll see. But yeah.
Well, if the wall's straight, which they never are.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's that.
How did you cut the dental mold?
Bandsaw. It's all bandsaw. Yeah. So, and then just used a small shoulder plane to tidy it up, kind of thing, once it was glued on. So, oh, sorry. Well, the final slices were cut on a bandsaw, but before that it was a table saw to cut the loaf into the sort of longer pieces, yeah, or the wider pieces. Yeah. Well, thanks a lot.
Very nice. How long did it take you?
Oh, how long? A fair number of hours. It was probably, we were working on a number of projects going back and forth at one time, but a better part of 2 weeks probably overall to finish. There's time waiting and stuff as we shared tools and stuff in the shop and whatnot. But yeah, it probably took me about 2 weeks.
Yeah, lovely.
It's gorgeous.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, those are yours.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
So, I did this actually a couple of years, it was during COVID. And I had some maple that was absolutely rotten, like pieces that you really want to throw out. I kind of looked at it and said, if I slice that with a bandsaw and then fill it with epoxy, that could come out kind of interesting. My wife wouldn't let me give this one away. Yeah, so this is basically a maple box. It's a tea box. All the inserts are just friction fit. Did them with the hand plane, and it's well, you can see them. So I did that, and my wife will not let me give that one away. Then I got into turning.
Don,
Yeah.
before you go on, you know the splines that you do,
Yep.
and you take it on your table slide and
Yep.
you run through.
Yeah.
What blade are you using to make sure that there's no little curve?
I use my rip blade, so because it's flat. Or what a lot of people will do is they'll get a regular cross-cut blade and have it flat.
Right, and that's what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
LaRue will do that for you.
Yeah.
He'll flatten that blade at top so you don't have the dent.
Yeah, because otherwise you get those two little ears.
Yeah. You get a little groove.
Yeah.
One of the things that I did when I got LaRue to do it was I got the cheapest saw blade I could get. Because why would you get a more expensive carbide bit or whatever it is when that's all it does?
Yeah.
you know, when you do your spline boxes, how many spline boxes? Unless you're Chuck.
Yeah.
Other guys are doing normal things like 2 or 3, you know, so
Yeah.
LaRue will do that for you.
Yeah. Yeah,
I've
you'll
been
have
using,
to,
what's that, the Freud, dado blades?
Oh, yeah.
Like 1/4 inch and you just flip them and it's 3/8.
yeah, but
But they don't do that narrow.
I have a Freud dado blade,
Yeah.
but it doesn't really have enough teeth.
Mhm.
So it's really designed for.
Oh, for that, yeah,
Yeah.
probably not.
And even with the rip blade,
Mhm.
it's what, 40 teeth or something like that, you have to go slow,
Mm-hmm.
because otherwise it'll chip. So you just go just nice and slow through and it's fine.
Yeah.
And I built a sled for doing those,
Mm-hmm.
and I should have brought it in actually. And basically you take your piece and you just jam it between I have 2 blocks that actually fit in the clamp in. And that way, once you set where your first cut is, you flip your box around and it's always exactly in the same spot. And then you flip it over, you do it again, and you get the top one, you get this one and that one done at the same time. And then you just line this one up, and then you just run the box through again, you're done. It takes literally 5 minutes and you're done with that thing. And then what I do is I usually use a different color wood, and I cut it a little bit thick, and I just run it through my planer, just taking off like almost nothing. And I keep just running it through until I get it so as close as I possibly can, and then maybe just a final touch sanding on it, and they usually fit right in. Because you don't want it too tight, because as soon as you put the glue on it, it expands a little bit and you'll never get it in.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Then I got into turning, and I really enjoy turning. So my wife wanted salt and pepper shakers, and I like getting old pieces of crappy wood, and so that's the pepper shaker, that's the salt shaker. And they're just finished, they need to be redone again, but they're just finished with mineral oil and beeswax. That's it. But you have to touch them up about every couple of months, just put a little bit on it. It's fine. It just soaks right into the wood. And they work great. I get the parts for those from penblanks.ca down in southern Ontario. Look at those. And the other thing I like turning, I turned about 15 of these in one day. They're little, I don't know if you can see in the back, but they're just Christmas ornaments. And I had little pieces of scrap wood. I said, what am I going to do with all this? I said, oh, I know what I'm going to do. So I just ordered a bunch of these ferrules. And I think it cost me, $3 or something like that. And I got to use up a whole bunch of my old pieces of scrap wood. So when we go for dinner, you know, before Christmas, I throw one of these in my pocket and I hand it over to the host and say, thanks very much, you know. The other thing I like finding kind of what you think are pieces of wood that should go into the fireplace. And they often make the most interesting pieces. So I do some work with epoxy, as you can tell. This is a fountain pen. This is actually my fountain pen because I kept giving them all away or selling them. So that's a fountain pen that I did. Again, the kits I get from penblank.ca, and they're great pens. Like the nice thing about doing a custom pen is you can do the pen to fit your hand, fit the way you like to write. So, yeah.
Totally beside the point, but how do you find I'm getting into fountain pens myself, how do you find the tip? Is it fine point?
This one I think is a medium, and you can get different tips.
Oh, and
So-
how do you find the flow?
It's great.
Like the-
Yeah. Well, if you don't use it for a couple of days, you have to
Yeah.
start it up again.
Yeah.
But, you know,
That's fountain pens, but.
Yeah. Yeah. But, you know, I just like using fountain pens because I'm old.
I don't know, I never thought I would get into them, and then, you know, I got my wife one, and
Yeah.
I started using it more than she does.
Yeah.
And it's so expressive.
Yeah, well, one of my neighbors, I was talking to him one day, and he said, well, I have this really lovely piece of dark wood, and I don't know what to do with it. I think it was actually zebra wood, and that had oxidized. he thought it was ebony.
Wow.
But there are some ebonies that are striped. It could have been one or the other. But once I cut into it, it was very pronouncedly striped. And so I turned the pen for him. So, yeah, I've done puns for a number of people. So.
Okay, you two are prime new members for the Ottawa Fountain Pen Society.
Yes, I know. I know.
Which meets on the last Tuesday of every month.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I actually met one of the guys at Rustfest. They had that little desk set up at the gate. I don't know, who went to Rustfest this year? So you know the guys who were set up at the front gate? There was a couple of guys who were doing pens. Yeah. Well, there you go.
Good stuff.
I was going to give it to a friend of ours. She said, no.